I'm Idiotech, and these are my first impressions of Battleborn for PC. The game will retail for $60 US. It's going to come out in a couple of months, and right now there is an open beta running on Steam that you can go check out for yourselves, and I encourage that you do because, one opinion is just that. It's one opinion. Okay, so before we get into this, I want to talk about Overwatch. The reason I want to do that is because many people make comparisons between this game and Overwatch, and I can see the reason why. On the surface, it looks like a colorful, cartoony FPS MOBA game. Unfortunately, there's nothing really similar between this game and Overwatch, and that's unfortunate because this game is significantly worse than Overwatch in almost every regard. Overwatch is a fast-paced twitch shooter, very similar to TF2 and Quake. If you took TF2 and Quake and added some MOBA elements, that's what you'd have. You'd have Overwatch. This game is a MOBA through and through. It's League of Legends. It's Smite. It's not Dota. It's nowhere near as good as Dota, but you get what I'm trying to say. The core difference here is that it has a first-person perspective, and it has some additional mechanics that I'll get into later. So we have the story mode, the co-op story mode. What is this mode? Well, it's essentially Borderlands. You go from location to location, killing enemies that are very bullet spongy, i.e. Borderlands. It has boss fights, very similar to Borderlands, and it has some cute and colorful writing. Okay, so it's Borderlands. It is, but not as engaging because I don't care about the characters, because it doesn't have a fully fleshed story, because the loot's nowhere near as interesting, and it feels like a run-of-the-mill corridor shooter until I get to a boss, interesting mechanics on the bosses sometimes, and then I get some loot at the end which isn't particularly exciting. So the co-op's kind of a write-off for me. It's a bit of filler content, I assume, to justify the $60 price point. So let's talk about the multiplayer. Okay, so it's lane-based. There is one lane based on the maps I've played. You progress down that lane, you kill enemy minions, you make it to the enemy's base, and you kill the base. Although I haven't actually managed to kill a base yet because all of my games have ended in a draw. We have a MOBA. It's first person. What's the actual difference between this and every other MOBA on the market? Well, really only one mechanic. The game has various points throughout the base. They have turret points, healing fountain points, shield points, and you can build these devices to help protect your base or to heal up your teammates or to provide you with temporary buffs and shields. That's nice. You can also hire mercenaries, which is a cool feature taken from Heroes of the Storm. However, in this case, you have to use the in-game currency to purchase them. That's the core difference. Now, at first, I thought that was kind of cool. I thought, oh, cool, we can rebuild turrets. That's nice. That's something you don't get in other MOBA games. However, once I played the game for a little bit, I realized that that drastically slowed the progression of a game. Most games consist of everyone sitting around the middle of the map shooting at each other for 30 minutes, and that's kind of it. I've not been in a game yet where I've actually progressed to the finish line or the other team has progressed to the finish line. That's kind of a problem of balance and design. And I think the reason for this is simply because you can rebuild those structures in your base, which initially was a cool idea, but in practice, it's not as fun as it sounds. And that's a problem because in games like Dota and League of Legends and Heroes of the Storm and Smite, when you kill a tower, that tower is dead for the rest of the game, and you have made a significant point of progress forwards. In this game, someone kills your turret and you just rebuild it. And that leads to some incredibly slow and dull experiences. So, that's not great either. Okay, alright, let's move on to progression. So this game has a lot of progression, and I mean a lot. If you want to play all the characters in this game, you're going to have to put a significant amount of time in because they are locked by account level. So once you get to account level 20, you unlock a specific character. That's a problem for me because I would like to play with all of the characters right away. I know games like League of Legends don't do this, but they also have a business model that surrounds that idea. You buy characters. Okay, they have characters on rotation. Fair enough. In this game, I have to grind a lot to unlock characters. That doesn't seem particularly fun to me, and it seems almost out of place in a MOBA-style game. Another area of concern regarding progression is the fact that you have to purchase loot packs. These loot packs give you what is essentially runes from League of Legends. They're passive buffs put into your loadout and then activate in the game by spending some currency. Now, you have to be at certain levels to buy certain loot packs. If you want to get a really cool loot pack, you have to be at level 20 or whatever. I don't like that either. Skins are the same. Everything in this game is locked behind progression walls, and it just feels completely out of place in a MOBA. I understand why it's here. They're trying to add some longevity to the title, but I think that could be done via modes and the actual core gameplay experience rather than bullshit progression systems, which, to be honest, are getting a little tired at this point. CSGO is a wonderful example. People will play Dust forever. That's because it's fun. You don't have to have progression systems in everything to make it fun, and in this case it doesn't make it fun. I wanted to play specific heroes and I couldn't get access to them without significant amounts of grind. Next thing to talk about is loadouts. I spoke about this briefly a moment ago, but basically you get access to runes. I mean, they're essentially runes. You might get a sword that gives you +5 to damage. You might get something that gives you 30% faster recharge time on your shields. They're not exciting, they're not interesting. This system is not engaging. I don't care. And it also brings up some balance concerns. If someone has like +10 to damage, if they're in an even fight with someone of the same class as them, surely the other person is going to die. Finally, let's talk about the business model. The business model is, the game costs $60, which is more expensive than Overwatch, by the way. It will have a lot of DLC, and I mean a lot. They have some huge plans for DLC moving forward. I have two concerns regarding DLC. The first is the cost, obviously, to the player. And the second one is that if you're going to release content, i.e. maps and characters and things like that, in DLC, then essentially you're going to end up splitting the community. Now, because this is not a free-to-play game, that's a really bad idea, because I don't imagine this is going to have a very large community to begin with. Finally, there's going to be microtransactions. Yay, microtransactions in $60 games. You all know how I feel about that. However, they do say that it's only going to be cosmetic. So what's my conclusion? My conclusion is the single-player component / co-op component is a generic rehash of the Borderlands formula. The multiplayer component is a first-person version of every other MOBA clone we've ever seen. And the progression system is pointless in a game like this and just limits people's fun and enjoyment. Combine all that with a poor business model, and you know my conclusion, I'm not going to be buying this game on release. And I suggest you don't either. I would save my money and buy Overwatch, which is a much superior game in every regard. If you found this video helpful or useful in some way, please let me know in the comments below. If you disagree with something I said, feel free to let me know also. I'm always open to feedback. If you want to support the channel, please like, favorite, share and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.